The ashes of Nakata had barely settled when the Red Feather warriors turned the village into their stronghold. The people, once proud farmers and hunters, were now laborers forced to build fortifications for their captors. The men were chained together, their backs scarred from whips, while the women toiled under the eyes of warriors who had once sworn to protect them. But every storm carries the whisper of defiance, and in the heart of this ruin, a boy named Ikenna burnt with a fire that even the Red Feathers could not quench. Ikenna was no warrior, nor was he the son of a great chief. He had been just a boy who herded goats along the riverbanks. His father had been killed in the raid, and his mother was taken by Udeji's men. He had nothing left except the will to fight. For weeks he watched. He listened. He learned. He noticed how the Red Feathers grew complacent, how they drank heavily at night, and how they underestimated the few villagers they hadn't enslaved. He saw how Udeji sat in the chief's old hut, surrounded by stolen gold and treasures, convinced his rule was absolute. He watched the warriors hoard food, keeping it away from the suffering villagers. And most importantly, he found the cracks in their armor. One evening, as the Red Feathers feasted on stolen yams and palm wine, Ikenna slipped into the shadows of the granary where the captured villagers were kept. He whispered to them through the wooden slats, "Are you ready to take back what is ours?" Some men scoffed. "With what? Our bare hands?" But Ikenna smiled. "No, with something stronger hunger." The plan began that very night. The first strike was silent. Ikenna and a handful of young boys poisoned the Red Feathers' food supply not to kill, but to weaken. By dawn, warriors clutched their stomachs, their faces pale with sickness. They still held their weapons, but their grips were weak. The next night, Ikenna used fire, the same fire that had destroyed his home. He and his allies set small, controlled blazes around the warriors' encampment, not enough to burn everything down, but enough to create confusion. In their panic, the Red Feathers abandoned their posts to put out the flames. That was when Ikenna struck. He led a group of freed men once broken, now armed with stolen spears, straight into the heart of the Red Feather stronghold. They moved like spirits, attacking only when necessary, cutting down isolated warriors, reclaiming weapons one by one. Udeji woke to the sound of battle. He staggered out of the chief's hut, only to see his once mighty warriors being cut down by the very villagers they had enslaved. His own men were weak, sick, and unprepared. And then he saw Ikenna. The boy stood before him, holding a spear looted from one of Udoti's fallen warriors. His face was streaked with ash, his eyes burning with vengeance. "You," Udeji spat. A mere goat herder, Ikenna didn't speak. He lunged.
Udeji was strong, but Ikenna was fast, and anger had made him sharper than a newly forged blade. He dodged Udoti's strikes, slipping through his defenses, until finally his spear found flesh. The mighty Udoti fell, his red feathers stained with his own blood. By dawn, the Red Feathers were no more. Those who had not been killed were driven away, their banners trampled in the dirt. Nakata stood once more, not as it had before, but stronger. The people rebuilt, this time with walls and warriors of their own. They did not seek outside protection again. And Ikenna, the boy who had once herded goats, became the leader who ensured Nakata would never be betrayed again. The smoke that had once risen in destruction now rose in celebration, and the land hummed with life once more. And so, the tale is told, but its spirit lives on. What lessons have we learned? What wisdom will you carry forward? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through the legends of our ancestors, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Until next time, keep the stories alive, for in them we find our past, our present, and the path to our future. This is Folktales of Many Tribes, where every tale has a soul. See you in the next story.